everyone, welcome to UX India. Today we have Vinisha Halli with us over here, and she is the service design practice lead at EY Studio Plus and EY GDS. And I'm really excited to speak to you about your journey in design and also about, your topic at UX India. So first of all, let me start by asking, how are you feeling? How are you?
I'm doing great. It's
That's
been a pretty good experience meeting a lot of folks coming from different places and different
right.
fields, right? And they all come together for one reason to know a little bit more about design. How can you do better? And what's happening? So it's great. It's great to
Right,
meet
right.
different perspectives.
Absolutely. I think for everyone who's coming at the conference, everyone's, picking out something, and it's a different experience for everyone over
Absolutely,
here.
absolutely.
So I'm so glad to hear that you're having a great time. And yesterday you had your TED-like session over
Yes.
here, and the topic is quite interesting. So, is the dog wagging its tail? So, can you tell us a little bit about your talk and also why this topic, like why this name?
So there are two parts to this.
Okay.
One is, of course, the metaphor that I've used, right?
Right.
And the other is actually what it's talking about. So I'll tell you about the part that what it's talking about first. So what I do at EYGDS is I'm a service design practice lead, right?
Right.
So there we do a lot of human centric solutions for businesses. That's the key. I mean, that's a
Right.
heading for what we
Right.
do. But what actually happens in that is we work with clients and businesses where we realize that so many times random decisions or random even like directives, right? That is what drives some change. And they're
Right.
doing overhauls at such big levels because most of the companies are huge, right? So
Right.
they're doing overhauls at such big levels and there's no good strategic purpose,
Right.
right? And I've also noticed that there are very small changes if you make as part of the bigger whole which get you to that strategic purpose in a much better way, right? So
Absolutely.
that I have seen happen not with one client, it happens consistently.
Oh, wow.
And at some point I'm like, why, right? Like, why is this such a big deal? And then I realized it's definitely worth talking about.
Right.
And the part where the metaphor, so first of all, I really like pets and I've
Oh,
always had dogs or
that's
more recently a cat.
wow.
um, and the part where I was just trying to see how can I best say this, right? So
Right.
I had a Labrador once, and
Okay.
he used to be like, I mean, he sees people or food, all that excitement, and their tail just wagging, and he used to drop like a lot of things, and so that I felt like that was a really good metaphor. It was more or less like a eureka moment one day,
Right,
and
right.
I was like, oh wow, that like matches really really well
Yeah,
because the dog had like pure tail energy. There's no
of
strategy,
course,
right?
of course.
So very similar. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And one more thing that I've kind of come across as a service designer is that storytelling is very important for us
Right,
because I mean it's important for all designers, but for service designers it's a little bit more important because we live in the intangible world,
right,
right? We don't have like a UX prototype to show. Of course,
right,
what we do
right,
reflects for sure,
right,
but most of the solutions, insights, everything that we're talking about is still in the intangible world. I'm
right,
saying that I'm going to create an experience for you. That experience is an intangible. It's a feeling, right? It's an emotion. It's.
right.
I'm trying to create something that the user is supposed to feel. So how do you tell a story about emotions and feelings? How do you communicate that intangible
Absolutely.
aspect? The best way to do it is a story. So
Absolutely, absolutely agreed. Storytelling is definitely an essential part of us designers, and we should like constantly practice it. Like
absolutely.
it just doesn't have to restrict to work also, but either ways, anything that we're describing, any
Yeah.
experience, this.
And it's not just verbal, right? It's
Right.
also visual, like
Absolutely.
how you communicate your story. And I've realized that this translates in so many ways, in the sense that I've seen UX designers, really good UX designers, UI designers, but they're not able to communicate a simple story on a screen. right? How are my eyes moving from left to right? Where do you want people to like focus? What's the first takeaway from the screen?
Right.
All of that stuff matters so much. That's in some way storytelling, right?
Absolutely. And I also believe that, especially as designers, we work on a lot of complex products,
Yes.
complex features, spanning across, like countries and different user bases. And one thing that connects everything is how you explain that in
Yes.
a storytelling form.
And just another, since we're talking about storytelling, might as well. So, another part about storytelling is it really, really makes a difference when you're talking to your business stakeholders.
Right.
It matters because, and it
Right.
also matters, like you see where all it impacts as a designer for sure. It also matters to the business stakeholders because then that becomes their why. Why
Right.
are we doing all of this? And that's the primary reason why we're doing any of it for the first in the first place.
Absolutely.
So then it becomes their why. That same why then helps brand marketing sales teams to create a narrative around it if they're doing it in the right way. But
Right.
you see the connected parts and how
Absolutely.
beautifully they connect each other and how important the value of storytelling is. So
Right. Right. And I
and
think, yeah,
the possibilities are endless. Like you can do it in so many ways. So what I
absolutely.
did was just one way.
But that's really insightful to hear you talking about storytelling, right? As you mentioned that so business stakeholders will not always understand the design jargons or language. So one thing to connect with them is through
Yes,
storytelling.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
So, I mean, I've seen this happen time and again, right? When you talk to them about, like, okay, if you tell them, so generally I've come across this experience when we do current state, when we do research, right? So, as service design, first step is to identify current state.
Right.
Usually, we are looking for the problems, right?
Right.
So, what happens is because we're looking for the problems, when we go back to the client, we're only telling them, hey, this is bad, bad, bad. They don't really like it, right? Who's going to
Right.
like they hired you, they pay you money, and then you come back after a couple of weeks and tell them, hey, you have a bunch of bad things going on.
Right.
So
Right.
that's not the best version. So it really helps if you frame all of your insights in a way where you're telling them, okay, this is probably the reason why someone said this, and then you put that in a nice story format for them,
Correct.
and that's received much better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely agreed. So, some moments back, you were also talking about how those small changes lead to the like big impact in, bigger organizations and in a bigger ecosystem. So, can you give an example of what a small change helped you bring in that impact?
I'm laughing because this is such a small thing and it happens to us so often. So, see, in an organization, right, like generally, and I'm talking enterprise. So, in an enterprise, generally, because so much technology is evolving, new platforms are coming and stuff. Very often, you'll see that companies will organize like, or they come up with new tools. We
Right,
do that work for other clients, right?
right,
Like new tools and stuff. So, new tools, new platforms. What they forget a lot is the very first step, access to that tool,
right,
right?
right,
So let's say they created like one platform for whatever it is, right? HR, anything. It could be anything. IT services, anything at all. If I don't have easy access to it, my very first step of using that is frustration.
That's such a legible point.
It's frustration at the very first step. I don't want to use it because I can't
Right,
find it.
right,
And imagine this in multiple, like you have like 3 4 different tools, one to apply your leave, one for your time, maybe timesheet. It could be
right,
anything, right?
right, right.
If you want to raise a request for something, some service you need, anything. Imagine for each of this there's a different tool and then you don't know where the starting points are. So imagine how frustrating your day can get.
Right. That's absolutely true. And that's a very small example, like
It's a very small thing,
yeah,
but it's a huge impact.
definitely. I totally agree. And now that you are saying this, there must be so many smaller changes that, we as designers can include, and then that large in that large space it really helps in the long run.
Yeah.
So, since you have been working at EY and before that you were working with Tata Elxsi and Design It, so I just wanted to understand this from you that we know UX designers, we know product designers, and even the stakeholders, the businesses that you are working with. they know these terms. But service designers is a little less talked about area in design.
Yes.
So how do you explain that value, or how do you put across that value to the clients that you're working with, and how do they perceive service design as?
So, okay, I'll tell you in two parts, okay?
Okay.
Like two parts, I'm talking about like two ends of the spectrum. In EY, honestly, I've realized that they don't really care which discipline you come from, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's about the value that you bring.
Absolutely.
So I know the value that I bring as a service designer, and we most often than not work with research, work with UX and stuff. So it's a cohesive value that we bring. So that's one aspect. What I'm trying to get at is it doesn't really matter the discipline. It's about the value that you bring. That's, let's say, the today's version of me. But when we did start out, for sure, right, it was very difficult to communicate service design or what are you doing. So, and if you think about it, it's not just to the clients. It's also to like the people you're working with, your friends and family and everyone. So I used to have this very simple way of explaining. So the best way to do it is put it in an example, right?
Right.
Any example. So we can't talk about examples per se, but let's say, companies where food chains, for example, you have these food chains across the world, right? They work in a similar fashion because it's been planned and designed.
Correct.
And you go to any of those franchises in the world, maybe like 20% difference here and there because of the regional influence, but the rest of it will still be the same.
Right.
That's because it has been planned, designed, and done in a certain way. That intention setting, that sequence setting, how it impacts the front end, how it impacts the back end, that would be like what I would have explained it as, with like a little bit more layman terms and things. But yeah, but honestly, at the core of it, it is about listening to the users.
Absolutely.
From both sides of this,
Absolutely.
of the line of visibility, we call it.
Right.
From both sides. At the end of it, for me, I think that has been what has been the moral compass for me also. It is about listening to the users, and sometimes it's about reading between the lines, between what they're saying. So that's what it has
I
been.
think the point that you mentioned, reading between the lines, that's a niche skill, but it's also very essential to uncover a lot of insights that user don't know how to say it.
Yes.
But you should have that in you to understand and read.
Actually, like when I was prepping for my talk, I was talking about, so one of the things that I spoke in my talk was about empathy, right? So empathy is about listening to the users and stuff. And I have come across this argument multiple times where they say that users don't know what they want. Well, sure, they don't, right? It's not their job to also tell you exactly, like, solve your problems for you. That's not their thing as well. So it's about how we ask them, first of all, and then how we take that insight back and convert it into something that's actually valuable for them. Right? It gives you a base for, that's what you take. I mean, they're not going to give you the answer on a platter unless you ask the right questions. Or even sometimes it's just about understanding what users do on a daily basis, like how do they live their life in the context that you're asking, whatever it is. And then from there on, you kind of figure out, okay, this is where they're stuck. Then you see why they're stuck, and then maybe how can you help it.
Correct. So it really is about uncovering and listening in between the lines, and then doing a tangible translation of that into finally what the users are using. Right. So as we move forward into the conversation, I wanted to understand from you, since you have been in the service design industry for some time now, what are some misconceptions that people generally have about this area? I'm curious to know.
Well, one of them is they think that service designers just do journeys, blueprints. That's it. They equate service design to just that. Well, it's a tool. Blueprints, journeys, personas, that's the extent of what they understand service design is. And I'm not just talking about like people who may not know about it. Even like in the design community also, there are a lot of people who say just that's about it. Right? But they're all tools is at the end of the day. Personally, I think service design is a mindset. It is about how you look at something. and your ability to be able to see the various parts that connect it. Right. So I mean, it's like, let's say you want to create a new feature for a product. Okay, any product, you want to create a new feature. If you're a product company and you're creating a new feature, you have to look at multiple things. So you will probably look at the design of it. You will probably have spoken to the users. If you're you will have spoken to the users. There's a need, so you're responding to a need. You're creating an update for your product, etc., etc. So there are developers. You've thought of all of this part. What about the sales and marketing parts?
Absolutely.
Right? If your sales and marketing people don't know why you're creating this feature, what's the benefit of your feature, etc., how are they going to actually sell it or communicate it to the market? So what's the point? You actually built it for a user who needs it, but you're not able to communicate it out back to the users itself. Then what's the point, right? I mean, imagine the time the user will probably take to understand, okay, feature has come as an update. And that's a disconnection, isn't it? So this ability to look at various connected parts, however big or small it is, I think that is a mindset that as service designers add value. And honestly, it's a very undervalued aspect, especially in the world now where things are moving so fast, right? Everything is moving so fast.
So I think until some years back, the term service design wasn't heard much of. Now it's still emerging, and there are companies who are realizing the value of it. But at present, also there are organizations where there are no service designers, versus there are organizations where are service designers like EY. So the ones that don't have service designers, what are they missing out on?
In a very simplistic way, I think they're missing out on the big picture. Right? They're missing out on the big picture. That's one. And the other thing I tell, or I kind of want service designers in my team to have as a skill, is to be able to zoom in and zoom out. Right? So you have the big picture, that's your zoomed out version, but you should be able to zoom in to be, impact like feature level or, those kind of things. So I think if you don't have the big picture, there are so many problems that come with it. That's what you're missing.
Of course. So that ability to look at things on a macro and a micro level, that is.
Most people focus on the micro level, right? They'll focus on like, okay, one user challenge, and hence I'm giving you like one solution for it. That's a micro view. How is it impacting in the larger scheme of things? I don't think, I mean, that's what they're missing. So.
Right. So, for the upcoming designers, if they want to step into service design, you being in the industry for so long and leading service design, what recommendations or suggestions would you give to them?
I know empathy is a very used word, and it's also fairly abused word as well. There was a time when people used to come and say, okay, that they knew that was a buzzword, right? So they used to use it, but they have no clue what it means. So I think what is important is to develop that in real, like you actually develop it. And so one of the ways I used to tell, like we do this in this thing in my team. So once in a while we kind of once in a while we do this where you just talk about your best and worst experience of the week. Right? What that doing is sensitizing you to your own environment. Right? When you become sensitive to your own environment in many ways, right? You understand. So you start focusing on how you feel first, and then how others are feeling. So you start building empathy from here, from you, and then it's like spreads out everywhere. That's when you have a fairly good grasp on what others are feeling as well. Maybe not, but then it helps you read between the lines, right?
Absolutely.
That is, I think that's a very important one. So while empathy is a very overused word, the actual doing, the verb of it, it is something that if you don't have it, it's fine. And if you're not kind of honed it also, it's fine. It's a skill to like hone for sure.
Absolutely. I think when it comes to empathy, as you mentioned, that it's very important to first start with ourselves. Only then we can understand how the users are truly feeling and, step into their shoes and empathize with them.
Even subtle things, right? Like sometimes you go, I'm not trying to put anyone down or anything, but sometimes on some of the Insta shopping that we do, right, the experience isn't great. They talk about how they're like being like really whatever sustainable brands or whatever, but the experience isn't great at all, and for so many ways, in so many things. I mean, nobody's asking for a online, like, I don't want to shop on a platform or anything, but still. So what I'm trying to get at is, you as a designer, if you can hone in on why you're not feeling great or why you felt great for that matter, right? Like, you hone in on that, you understand the whys, you slowly start being able to scale it up to like the work that you do for other people as well.
That's truly insightful for me, because even as a designer myself, I keep on reflecting a lot. I try to look into myself and sort of empathize with myself as well, and that definitely helps in my process as well, while talking to users, while doing the UX research part. So thank you so much, Vinisha. It has been wonderful speaking to you. I think we went in depth in some of the topics, and that's really wonderful. And I would like to conclude our conversation with a small rapid fire round.
Okay.
Just normal questions,
Okay,
and
fine.
you can give 1-2 word answers for them. Right. So, are you ready for it?
Okay. As ready as I'll be. Let's go ahead.
All right. So, the first question is, describe yourself in one word.
Empathetic.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what's one book or a movie that you find inspiring?
So there's a book by Charles McKeesey. It's called The Dog, the Mole, the Fox. I don't know. I don't think I got the order right,
Okay, no problem.
but that's a fantastic book. And I mean, it's a book where you just open any page and it's giving you something really good to take away. That's a general book that I like, but service design book, there's a book called Good Services
Okay.
by Lou Down. That's a brilliant book as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the recommendation. So, moving on to the next question, what is the best part about your work day?
People, my team, working with my team, I think collaboration is the best part.
Right, that's wonderful to know. And next question is that what do you love about UX India conference?
I think I can mention the different perspectives, right? Like, I met at least people from student level to like, heads of, like directors of, head of design and all of that. That perspective range is brilliant. So I think, yeah, that's fantastic.
That's wonderful to know. And the last question is that if not design, what other field would you have been in?
That's a very tough one. Um, I wanted to say another form of design, but yeah, honestly, if I wasn't a designer, probably I'd be a doctor.
Oh wow. That's doctors are empathetic as well, so that connects.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, Vinisha. I had a wonderful time speaking with you,
Yes,
and thank you so
likewise.
much for coming to UX India conference.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.